story cut short, I have not always been great with managing money, and I myself don't come from wealth. Plunged into the world of debt. It helped me to have a different relationship with money, one that I didn't have before. Was I able to afford where we stayed? Was my credit good enough for me to be able to get more credit and be approved for certain purchases? Yes. Pressured myself to make things work, and sometimes making those things work even when I made bad decisions. So we now have a car. Hi beloveds, welcome back. Happy new month. I'm gonna get straight into today's video, straight into it. As you guys can see from the title, we are mobile again. We have a car again. I think I need to give a backstory for this one. So I was fortunate enough to be gifted with a car, I think at the age of 22, if not 21, by my aunt. When she purchased a brand new car, she then gifted me hers instead of selling it. A gesture I can never ever downplay, a gesture that changed my life. It was a game changer. I myself don't come from wealth or privilege. However, I have always had a community and basically angels around me who've helped my parents to raise me and who've extended in more ways than one. And this was one of those moments that my aunt did exactly that. Having a car at such a young age, one, definitely introduced me to a world of independence. It introduced me to a certain amount of responsibility. I had to now manage the very little salary that I had at the time differently, because while I didn't have an installment to pay, I had obviously petrol and all those things that I think maybe I wouldn't have had to think about. Maybe it definitely wouldn't have had to think about at the time. I was 21. I was pregnant. Dinga was then born the year after. I think I would have spent more time trying to make sure we have a place to stay and get stability in different ways before purchasing a car. I definitely know that I would have waited to have a better paying job before I made such a purchase, but in this case I didn't have the burden of having an installment, and so yeah, that was a game changer in terms of my independence. However, the other side of the coin of receiving a gift like that at such a young age, lacking financial literacy, lacking even just the know-how of navigating all kinds of things when it comes to cars. I had so many times when my car broke down, and I know for sure at the time that I spent thousands that I could have probably saved fixing the car. I just made me think I was not ready for that type of responsibility. But is one ever ready? It changed my life, but it also simultaneously meant that I plunged into the world of debt much sooner than I think I would have, because I was trying to fix the car. There were times where I was quoted 40,000 Rand, 50,000 Rand, money that I simply did not have. And my entire lifestyle had now changed. I had a child. I needed to get from A to B. I was now living a bit further out from town. It was almost impossible not to get around, or at least at the time, and at least I thought at the time, without a car. The car really helped me because it meant I needed to just put a few hundred rands into the car. I needed to pay insurance and I'd be mobile. It would get me to work, etc. So long story cut short, I have not always been great with managing money, and it came to the surface when I had to then take care of such a big responsibility. We fast forward to a few years later. I get to Johannesburg. My Clio is giving me problems. The problems can't be fixed by a few thousand rands there. At this point, I've plunged into further debt. I need to now get another car. At the time, we were living in Randburg. I was working in Pretoria, and there's a reason why we live so far from work. Long story cut short, my car gives me problems. I then very spontaneously decide, you know what, I need to go get another car. Without doing research, without consulting anybody, without crying for help, without saying, I have this car, it's servicing me, I'm appreciative of it. However, I'm no longer coping financially because I've been fixing it. I think that's, I guess, the downside of hyper independence. I did not even consult friends. I went straight to We Buy Cars, looked at a car, and same day got another car. That car serviced me for a good 4 years. Shame, it was a very good used car. I had a good experience with We Buy Cars against popular belief. And it gave me some time to rebuild some of the finances that I had lost due to fixing the Clio. Fine. All this to say that while I did have time to rebuild my finances at the time, all the debt that I had accumulated in fixing my Clio, I don't think it clicked until I resigned my job and left the country that I was probably in crisis financially. Was I able to afford where we stayed? Was my credit good enough for me to be able to get more credit and be approved for certain purchases? Yes. However, I just simply did not have the financial discipline that I think I have now. I did not have the financial discipline and the ability to ask for support, advice, help. I come from a family of very knowledgeable people financially. I come from a family of many people who've made their own strides financially. I don't lack the information, but I think my hyper independence unfortunately got in the way of myself to be able to seek counsel, to ask people for opinion, to make hard sacrifices. And I do think that motherhood played a very big role for me in that, in my journey financially. And I say that because I think having fallen pregnant quite young, there's always this expectation that this thing will be a full stop situation for you and your life sort of ends and you won't be successful or you'll struggle through life. I think you lose perspective for what hardship really looks like, versus what hardship would look like if you did not have a child. At least that has been my experience. I think I very much pressured myself to make things work, and sometimes making those things work even when I made bad decisions. So when we left for Germany about 2 years ago, I was surviving, I was getting through, but my financial situation was not great. And I was not in crisis, but I did not have the discipline that I needed. And it took us literally leaving the country, sold my car at the time. I managed to pay off more debt by selling off the car, and literally being in another country for me to sit still and take stock of, what have the past couple of years looked like? Have I made terrible financial decisions? Yes. How can I change it? And so selling my car, going to a country that allowed me to be mobile using public transport, gave me a window to fix, to put money aside, to save, to create saving habits, one that I never had before. I've never been a saver. At least I wasn't a saver at the time. If I saved, it happened sporadically. It wasn't something that was instilled in me to do. I was really always in survival mode, making sure that I was able to pay the school fees, the rent, everything on time, and able to have enough money for us to be able to afford a certain lifestyle for my child. And I'm not even a person who's bougie or is fancy, but I think I prioritized always having money at the end of the month versus saving and putting that money away. I just didn't think about saving, and I know that this comes from a lack of that financial discipline and literacy. And so going to Germany saved my finances in that way. When we came back a year later, or just under 2 years later, I definitely had a different mindset in terms of where I wanted my money to go and how I wanted my spending habits to be. Did this mean that I was now perfect at saving and finances? Obviously not, but I think that switch was necessary. And it brings me to the decision we've now made in terms of being mobile. So when we moved back, we lived in Cape Town. I made a decision not to purchase a car at the time. And the simple reason for that is I just couldn't afford it. The rent was much higher than what I had paid before. I now had 2 children to factor in, so my finances needed to go towards other expenses, such as a helper, such as getting a spacious enough place. I just had different priorities. And when I looked at installments, petrol against, the cost of living at the time, it just didn't make any financial sense for me to purchase a car. And that's one of the upsides of living in Cape Town. I think it's a city that's actually quite small. It's a city where a car doesn't have to be a necessity. You can get around quite well with the public transport options that are available, including my city, several buses, the Golden Arrow. You have a really good taxi system. So it really gave me breathing room, and I took the breathing room. Did I want to be mobile again? Of course, with 2 kids, who doesn't want to be mobile? It makes your life much easier. But I really downscaled in terms of just lifestyle choices, and it helped me save some and put some money away. And more importantly, it helped me to have a different relationship with money, one that I didn't have before. Money before was a means to survive, and I think I've now started to think about money as something that needs to last for the long term, sort of thinking about wealth, thinking of investment, not just for my kids, but just that mentality, to say, you know what, I do want to put money aside, I do want to have a certain lifestyle, and it requires me to make certain sacrifices. So the year where I was in Cape Town, we did not have a car, and it gave me time to pay off more debt, it gave me time to put some money aside. And when we then moved to Joburg now at the beginning of the year, I had spent a good year now doing a bit of research, exploring my options. Do I want to buy another car? Do I want to take this new lease option, something that wasn't available to me, or something that I didn't even know was an option in 2014 when I started driving? And I really did my research and ultimately decided, yes, we're ready to be mobile for many reasons. I think one of the obvious ones in Joburg is that it's such a big city. It's difficult and expensive to move around without a car, especially if you don't live with family or people who, whose car you have access to, etc. If you're going to Uber around, it's going to cost you. Or if you don't live very close enough to a reliable taxi system, of course, using a taxi has its own downsides. But luckily, the timing of the move was perfect. I think we were ready for that kind of decision. So we now have a car. I did not buy the car via financing because I really want to be debt free within the next 3 years or so. That is my goal. And if I don't achieve it, I don't want to get to 35 without trying. So I want to be debt free. There's certain purchases I want to make. There's a certain lifestyle I want to have. There's certain investments I want to make. There's money that I want to invest in my family that I haven't in the past, that I want to do, which mean my finances have to be planned out differently. And I have opted to go the long-term leasing route. Very reasonable. When I initially researched about long-term leasing, I only stumbled upon overpriced options, ones that didn't actually make sense. You might as well just buy the car via the bank versus the leasing, at least the options that I saw, until I stumbled on Flex Club. Flex Club is a rental or a long-term leasing option via Avis and Budget. So the cars are Avis and Budget cars, and relatively new cars. The car that we're driving at the moment is the 2024 model. So you're not driving a high mileage, outdated car. You get really great options in terms of fleet. I will actually try and screenshot and put it somewhere here, what the website looks like. It's very straightforward. You are required to pay a deposit. The deposit isn't much more than the monthly installment that you're required to pay. Obviously, you get this returned to you when you return the car. What makes this particular option special, aside from the affordability, is the options of the cars, and I think it is fairly decent because it includes not only the installment for the car that you'd be paying, it also includes a comprehensive cover in terms of insurance, and you also have the option to purchase the car as well. Because I know that one of the cons of long-term leasing is feeling like you're paying money and it's going down the drain. And I mean, each to their own. Some people are okay with that choice depending on whatever their lifestyle looks like. And some people don't have any other options because maybe they're in debt review or they have really bad credit, and therefore obviously they can't go the financing route, and then they're in a corner and have to pick the leasing option. And if that is you watching, at least with this particular option, I think it's affordable, and you can once you feel like you've rebuilt your credit, start exploring, getting your car via finance. So we have gone the long-term leasing route for now. I haven't opted to purchase the car for many different reasons, which I'll get into. And I'm going to give it a test try for the next 6 months and see if it works for me, and see if I'm actually happy with this particular car in this particular category, or whether I want to pick another category. I do think that with any long-term leasing, it makes more sense to look at the fleet that's the fleet options in sort of the categories that are more affordable. They do get more unreasonable the bigger the cars are, the newer the cars are. So I do find I'm currently driving a car in the B category. So they start from A, and I'm driving a car in the B category. And when I did my calculations, it's a fairly good deal. I don't think I'd be able to purchase that particular car right now for that set price, including insurance. And the plus in this case is that I get to rebuild my finances. And I do want to also say, I think from my own journey, when it comes to financial mistakes, there's a shame attached to it. I don't know why in my case, because I don't come from wealth. It's not like I come from a family where everybody is wealthy. People are doing well for themselves, and have I think the one thing about my family is that people are authentic. There are many versions of success that I've seen in my entire 32 years. People are open about their struggles. I don't come from a family that considers too many things a taboo. So I don't really know where the shame comes from. I think a lot of it may have been internalized stuff from my own independence, wanting to live a certain life and wanting to not make too many mistakes along the way. And I have friends who are mostly my peers, age mates, so a lot of us are sort of figuring things out as we go, and a lot of us live life very differently. Not all my friends are parents, not all my friends have the same lifestyle or make the same choices as I do. One that has enriched in terms of like my experience and my perspective, but it has also meant we're all figuring it out as we go. There isn't a set blueprint, but there is definitely a shame that is attached to making mistakes, or a shame at least for me, that I've internalized, not within my circles, but that I've internalized, a shame with not making whatever's considered quote unquote the right choice. And so getting this car doesn't only symbolize rebuilding, it symbolizes a shift in terms of my mentality, all things finances. It symbolizes being okay to admit to making mistakes and being okay to doing things unconventionally, loudly. I think shame erodes and damages so much internally. And it also symbolizes that it's okay for me to sometimes navigate something that isn't popular or common, to sort of go the road less traveled. I think I'm a very own lane, own pace person, but I've also been fortunate enough to tick the conventional boxes. And when you tick the conventional boxes, you set a certain expectation to always tick conventional boxes. There's certain conventional boxes I'm not anchored in that I don't feel too devastated about, but there are others that I am anchored in and do feel devastated about. And making financial mistakes is one of them, because it symbolizes to the world that you failed. I don't really know if most people think that, but that's at least the way that I've internalized it. And so here's to starting over. I will leave a link below and a referral link as well. I'm happy to refer them. I've been happy with their service so far. And I'll do another 6 months review later down the year, and to just share with all of you how my experience has been. But I hope as the new year starts, you are all extending grace to yourselves, and you are positioning yourself to learn from your mistakes, to lean on community, to ask for advice, and to not rely on your own strength, to be open to rebuilding. So that's all I've got for you all. I hope this year is kind to you. I hope my birthday month is kind to all of you. And please feel free to share your experiences. If you've gone through something similar, I'd love to hear what your experience is. I know that we're actually not alone when we navigate these things, but we often feel like we are. Anyway, I'll leave it there for now. See you next time.